Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just one sec, Brendan.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Very good.
Now, Brendan, they're automatically coming in, so we just need to we'll commence the module, Conscious People's Time,
And feel free to turn your cameras on. It's always good to see faces.
all right. Okay, folks, you're welcome. And as per standard practice, we'll try and take it out on time and get you out on time as well in terms of concluding it. I'm delighted to have you all here today, and we're recording this session for the avoidance of doubt. I think somewhere along the way we might actually have a pop-up that might ask you for your email addresses, which we have in any event, but ignore it at your peril. Or rather feel free to ignore it, but we will use your email that you've given us for this module to advise you of the next module that's coming up next month, and we're looking forward to that as well. So, look, Brendan, Gurmila Magat, great to have you here today, and thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge. Brendan is the managing partner of Cara Leadership, which is a unique boutique consultancy that's operating both here in Europe, Ireland, and on a pan-American footprint as well. And I think from I suppose our conversations with Brendan over the while, it's really timely for us to take a look at this whole area of dynamic leadership, and I guess and hope that you'll take a few key learnings away from this in terms of how to break away from the drama of leadership and sustain your energy, which is something that everyone is kind of very mindful of at the moment in the 24/7 cycle of leadership, and how to take perhaps, I guess, Brendan, radical responsibility, how to design those results in terms of moving the needle in terms of outcomes and return on investment. And the investment is in yourself, and that's why you're here this afternoon, to invest in your knowledge bank, and explore, hopefully, Brendan, a bit, how to foster deeper connections with conscious commitments, and be present and be there for your teams, and actually help to grow them in a meaningful way, and get the best from your teams and indeed from yourself. And adopt a philosophy of continuous improvement along the line, which I guess to a large degree is the philosophy of a lot of management consultants at the get-go. Now, within the context of what we're about, just to reiterate, this is an open forum. We'd like you to maybe put up your questions within the chat box as you can. Brendan has agreed to take on any questions along the way as well, so feel free to populate them. And we've already received quite a few questions, so we will pepper them in, or perhaps at the end as well. As I said, we're recording this session. We'll put it out on our YouTube channels afterwards. Brendan has very kindly offered, if anyone wants to percolate on this and come back to him separately afterwards, we'll have his contact details, and feel free to engage with him directly. In fairness, Brendan, you've worked across the globe with all of the big players, from Apple down to the humble IMCA at this point, right across the spectrum. So you've seen it all, you would say. This kind of area of conscious leadership, I think, is very much in the zeitgeist at the moment, and we're seeing an evolution in terms of people's awareness of the need for continual improvement in terms of their self-promotion of excellence and so on. So conscious, that's not, I suppose, me you're here to see, and it's Brendan that we wish to learn from, and conscious of people's time. And just a note, sorry, to the members on board, we are just noting this for CPD if you want to get CPD afterwards, and equally just on the OGP for those members, just to be aware that that module is available as well. We've got a lot of interest in that. That's purely for the members that are here, but there is an awful lot of interest in the OGP issue at the moment. So that is up on the website and on the YouTube channel as well, if you want to see it, or just contact us directly with Peter Brennan. There has been obviously a lot of interest in that for material reasons. So Brendan, Cara, it's over to you. Gurmila Magat, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Pat, for the warm introduction. And hello to everybody that's joining in today. I just would invite you to come on camera if you're willing to do that, just so we can get a sense of connection with you as we go through this. And if for any reason you can't, that's totally fine. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming on, guys. It's good to see everybody. Let's just do a quick warm up. Now, I imagine most of you are in some form, shape, or another consultants, management consultants, advisors. That's what you do professionally. So what I would love for you, first of all, just to chat out. Think about your job, your clients, your practice. And like, what are the big issues you're grappling with? What are your big challenges? Like, just pick one or two and pick something that's juicy, not like, I'm concerned about the impact of AI on my business. Like, just pick an everyday challenge that you might be grappling with, upset with, thinking it should be different, disappointed with, irritated with, like something that has a little bit of juice. So does everybody have, if you work in the modern world, everybody here probably should have some issue or concern. So let's just go to chat and see what we got here. I'm not going to call out names, but I just want to see, just get a sense of the issues you guys are dealing with. Okay, clients with low self-awareness and little curiosity. Navigating my team through evolving change. Yeah, and strategy. Yeah. Dealing with generational change in small firms. Beautiful. Let's hear a few more. Giving enough time to my own learning. Okay. Change in strategy causing serious issue. Beautiful. Generating responsibility in team for real change. Ooh, you can see how conscious leadership can assist with all of these. Do we have a couple more? No. Getting people to give you time. Yeah, beautiful. All right, I'm just going to close the chat, but if you have another one, just keep it coming in. So that's what we call your content. These are the issues and concerns we have. The first big distinction we make in conscious leadership, managing disruptive clients. Thank you. Beautiful. The first big distinction we make in conscious leadership, getting people to take ownership. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, I agree. Change in strategy. These are perfect topics for today. All right, let me get back to my point. Thanks for all this. So content, you've just read the chat. That's all your content. The distinction we make in conscious leadership is the difference between content and context. Context is my relationship to the content. In other words, like, how am I being with my content? There's a change in strategy, or I can't get clients to take ownership, or they're not very self-aware. How am I being with that? And the shorthand that we use, and this is a very intuitive model, am I above the line or below the line? Now you can just just by saying that, you might get a sense of what that is. Now above the line is, yeah, I'm in flow. I'm not resisting reality. I'm open. I'm curious. I'm committed to learning what's here for me. And I'm standing on my agency. When we're below the line, and this is so common, this is where most of us go when we have a challenge, get a little bit reactive. And we're like, we want to be right about our view. We get a little bit irritated or unhappy or like blamey or, yeah, this should be different, or this isn't going fast enough, or they're not doing something well enough, or I criticize myself for not doing something well enough. So you get the sense of above and below the line. Just check around your issue. Are you above the line, below the line, or you're not sure? And just type in chat one of those three things: above, below, or not sure. Okay, and we'll just see what's here in the group. Let's see. Okay, below, not sure. Above, not sure. Not sure. Depends. Depends. Not sure. Beautiful. Above, but are my team? Yeah, I love that one. Not sure. Not sure. There's a lot of not sures. Yeah. Below, if I've understood it correctly. Beautiful. Great. All right. Beautiful. So this is normal. When we start doing this work at first, we often get a lot of not sures. Now, pro tip, if it's not sure, more than likely you're below the line. So we're just going to do a little dive into this. And as we go through this, here's one thing I want you to think about. These tools or these processes or whatever we're talking about, these are things you can use with your clients. Because if you're engaging, like say you're a management consultant and you're engaging in a transformation or a change or an implementation, yes, of course, your processes and your procedures are so key, your strategic direction, your guidance, all of those things. What we're talking about here is your leadership. And when we talk about leadership, can you do an accurate assessment of where people are, above or below? Are they in trust or are they in resistance? Resistance is such a huge place where all of these projects get derailed. And if you can bring the skills of conscious leadership to actually do an accurate assessment of where people are and use the roadmap that we're going to talk about today to help people shift to above the line, shift in consciousness, shift in mindset, shift into openness to learning and innovation, then you have the leadership recipe for success. So I'm going to put up on screen here. I'm going to share my screen, one sec. Let's see, and we'll do a quick definition here. Here's the big idea. So the first question conscious leaders ask is, where am I? And we just did that. Around my issue, around my topic, around my content, am I above the line or below the line? So above the line is like by me leadership. We're in our agency. We're responsive, curious, open. And then when we're like that and our teams are like that, there's high-speed learning and transformation because we're open to innovation and new ideas. We're not closed. When we're in to-me leadership, life is happening to me, head office is happening to me, AI is happening to me, strategy is happening to me, and we get a little bit defensive and righteous. And, it's like, it's not fair, and there's resistance and threat. This is the biggest derailer of any of your projects that you're going to have. So let's just use your example here again. And I'm going to put 3 columns here. So around your specific issue, and especially if you said you're not sure. And of course, if you said you were below the line, these are below the line statements. So just read through these for a moment and just write down 2 that come to your mind around your issue, where you're saying, yeah, they should be taking more accountability, or I should be doing better, or they don't get it. So read through these. I'll do this fairly quickly. Inside voice or outside voice? Mostly we're doing the inside voice in these things. Yeah, why aren't my team getting us? Yeah, no use. I'm trying so hard. Just write down a couple. And this actually is a self-awareness tool, and we're bringing you through this so that you can have an opportunity to actually bring anybody else through this. Okay, so that's the statements. Mostly inside voice. Sometimes we say it to other people. Behaviors. Take a read through these. What would a video camera record me doing around my issue? Just read through these. Write down 1 or 2 ways you're showing up around your issue. Okay. And then see if you've given enough time for that. Pat, if there's questions, I can't see chat. If anybody has a question about anything there, I can't see that. So would you mind just keeping an eye out?
For sure. No problem.
Thanks. Brilliant. And then the 3rd column is beliefs. What am I believing to be true here around my issue, around my challenge? Yeah, just check off 1 or 2, write them down. We're going to chat some of these out. Okay. Let's give it another 10 seconds. I'm going to stop share. Okay, here's my Yep. Okay. So column one, just put in what it is you chose in column one. So we just get a sense of where the group is. What are the common themes? Put that into chat. Yeah. Okay, shallow breathing. Let's do column one. What are you doing? What are you saying with your inside voice? They should. Yes. It's hard. I should. I'm trying. They don't get it. Oh, maybe I'm above Jackie. Brilliant. Okay. Anything else in column one? You're not listening to me. So common. It's hard. They don't get it. Yeah, they don't get it. It's hard. They don't get it. There's a theme here. It's hard. They don't get it. I'm trying. Oh, beautiful. Great. Let's move to the second column. What a video camera will record you doing, saying, feeling, not doing, not saying, not feeling. I'm trying. Yeah, overwhelm, trying. Oh, avoiding conflict. Others need help, avoiding conflict again. Yeah, overwhelm. This is just a big theme here. Wow. Wow, we could do a whole master class on overwhelm. Overwhelm and avoiding conflict. Yeah. Oh my God. These are such good ones, avoiding conflict. Yeah. Those two things are really coming on strong here. Yeah, enrolling others to validate my beliefs. Yeah, because I want to be right. Yeah, well, beautiful. And what about the third column? What are the core beliefs that you have here from below the line? Yeah, around your issue. Need to be in control. That's like one of the top ones. Ooh, I have to be serious. That's one way we go below the line. We see everything is serious. There's a threat occurring to me. Need to be in control. Control again. Yeah. Don't have time to read them overwhelmed. There's not enough. Yeah, that's a great one. There's never enough, is there? I have to be serious. Yeah, to get to a solution. Very serious stuff. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. So now we can see clearly how we're locating ourselves below the line, right? So step one of conscious leadership is accurate location. Now, 9 times out of 10, when I'm speaking with the team, where are you? Like, let's locate yourself. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm above the line." Yeah, I'm above the line. Well, that's the first kind of error. If you don't accurately locate yourself, you cannot shift in consciousness. You cannot shift from to me to by me leadership. So if you're ever in any doubt, just locate yourself below the line. Check here, and we'll give you this, and we'll give you a handout so you can start to do this on your own as well. And then now you have the recipe. From below the line, we close, right? We contract and we close. So if you know how you close, then you know how to open. And that's where we're gonna head next. What are the commitments? We're always committed to something, right? When we're below the line, we're committed to being below the line. And we don't like to admit that. We like to think, oh no, I really want to shift. I really want, like 9 times out of 10, I say to people, are you willing to shift to above the line? Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what they say. So I don't know, 5 times out of 10, they're not. So we'll take a little dive into this here in a second. Let's see. The other thing I just want to say, I mean, you might have heard the statement that's attributed to Einstein. I actually don't think he said it, but it's like, you cannot solve a problem at the level you created it, with the level of consciousness you were at when you created it. So when we create our issues and our problems, whether it's stress, whether it's overwhelm, whether it's they don't get it, whether it's hard, whether it's challenging, we created it from below the line. We're not going to be able to solve it from that level of consciousness. There has to be a shift to a higher level of consciousness in order to get a different result. So what happens when we don't shift in consciousness, or we mislocate ourselves and think we're fine, we're doing our best, we're above the line, we're good, and we don't get really located well, the patterns repeat. So you just get more of the same. from below the line. And no, you might get a short-term result, right? You know, if you take out a big stick and tell everybody they have to meet a deadline, okay, they might actually meet the deadline out of sheer fear of losing credibility or the job or something. You get a short-term result, but over the long term, you're still going to get the same result because you haven't shifted in consciousness. Let's keep moving, and then we'll take questions in a few minutes. Go back to, okay, there we are. So here are the core commitments. And this is the map or the roadmap to shifting. To take radical responsibility. So from below the line, we're in a blame and criticism game. And anytime we say they should, I should, you know, the company should, the world should, the government should, we are not taking radical responsibility. We're going to do a little bit of a dive into this one because it's the core one, to shift from blame and criticism into radical responsibility. Again, if you start thinking about your projects and your implementations, as we talk through these, it might actually support you in making some of this more real. Curiosity, from below the line. We are absolutely committed to being right. I think some people had, you know, I'm right about it. The commitment from below the line is actually, I want to defend my position when I know I'm right, especially when I really think I know I'm right. It's a basic core leadership trap. And it's like, you know, you're holding it, like if that's what you're right about, like you're holding a pen and you're gripping onto it. And the more you grip onto your opinion, the more attached, just like you're gripping a pen, the more attached you are to it. You're just closed. You're in a closed system. Your team might even be in a closed system. You're just not available to shift, to be creative. And shifting is just like holding your stories, your rightness more loosely, exploring the opposite of your story. How could that be just as true? Taking multiple perspectives. Sitting in the chair of the customer saying, I wonder what they would say about our board meeting that we're having right now, right? So just getting that sharing of multiple perspectives, getting into an open system so that learning and innovation and creativity can thrive, because it doesn't thrive from here below the line. They're the two. Like if you could master these in all your engagements, like I would say it would have a big impact. Now, many of you are already mastering these in your engagements. The beauty about this is it's a roadmap that you can then use to talk about this and share and start to practice it. The third one is feelings. I think feelings have been legislated completely out of the workforce. And this is so important. When we're below the line, we repress our feelings. And especially, you know, I've worked with clients who are really professional and they won't bring feelings into the boardroom or the executive room or the team meeting because it's just not professional. We're actually leaving like, we're bringing from here up into the room and leaving from here down out. And so the intelligence, we're not, you know, we talk a lot about emotional intelligence. In the last few decades, there's been a lot of research on how it's so important for leadership and empathy. But we spend most of our time talking about it and thinking about it. And some of us do it naturally. We might be feeling people, but we don't really embrace it and bring it into the entire team. It's a game changer when you start to do that. It's a complete game changer. So, you know, the core feelings all have an intelligence. Like if a leader cannot feel their anger and express it from above the line, they're not going to be able to say, stop, boundary. This is not serving us, gang. Such an important leadership quality. They're not able to feel their sadness and their grief. Like I've had this so many times in mergers and acquisitions and change. Like, oh, we want to hold on to our old culture and we don't want to let go. If you can't feel your sadness and your grief, you can't let go. And people are hanging on and they get into victim consciousness. Fear. You can't feel your fear. Like if CEO says, yeah, no, I think the outlook is pretty good for the next quarter, gang. And their energy is transmitting fear. Everybody's like, we don't trust her or him. Like they're just not a trustable person. Everybody knows the numbers aren't going to be good. And once you name the fear and say, hey gang, I have some concerns about the numbers. Yes. I have experiencing fear around that, but I know that we can get there. La 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 la. And then now I'm a trustable leader. And then creativity is another. You don't have creativity, you're not going to be able to innovate. And if you don't have joy, you're not going to be able to celebrate and appreciate. Like this is such a big thing. Like when we're having overwhelm and we're having really heavy, serious work environments, we're not tapping into our joy and creativity. And we're just leaving that whole piece out. So these are really important things. And the other thing I just want to say about feelings is it's like a garden hose. They all come out of the same hose pipe. So if you're a leader who's repressing anger because you grew up in a family system where anger was not welcome and it was dangerous, so yeah, then you're not going to be able to have a friendly relationship with it. You're going to be below the line. You're not going to be a boundary leader. You're going to be more of a pushover. So again, just bringing these in. Candor. So many teams have withholds. Withhold. And a withhold is something that I'm thinking, knowing, or saying, or feeling that I haven't brought to the team, that I haven't said to you. And if you have a team that has loads of withholds, wow, you're not going to get the right information. Or you're running a project and people are sitting there going, I'm not bloody speaking up. Jesus, I'm not going to say the thing, right? So now you're denying the whole system, the whole team, the whole company of intelligence, of your candor. And it takes a lot of courage to actually do this. Gossip, then, what happens is when we have withholds, we don't speak. We end up like talking about marketing or talking about sales, or we'll get blamey and victimy. This one, from a consulting perspective, and I'm just trying to tune into you guys, there's so much politics, especially if you're consulting in a large organization. When this is run amok, the whole system breaks down. It actually becomes toxic. There's a toxic residue in the system, and engagement is low, and burnout is there, and the strategy doesn't get cleanly implemented, and there's a blame game, and there's siloing, and all of that. So really going after this one is key. And then finally, integrity is a combination of, owning my commitments, making clear agreements, speaking my truth, feeling my feelings. The one here that I just want to double click on is making clear agreements. It is the simplest tool to eliminate drama in any workplace or in any project. Because people will say, yeah, we do make clear agreements. It's all on the project plan and this is done by this. But what happens is we actually don't make clear agreements. We tell people what to do. They go below the line. They're scared. They're overwhelmed. They go, yeah, sure. Yeah. Because they don't have a whole body yes. They're not engaging their whole conscious system and saying, oh, hang on a second. We're completely overwhelmed here and you want this. I don't think that's going to work. They get scared. They go below the line and they go, sure. So it's not a clean, clear, conscious agreement that's being made. And when that happens, of course, you're going to break your agreements. When you break your agreements, you have drama. And then you have leaders going like, no one's accountable in this organization. So this is a really simple tool. Who does what, by when, and is there a whole bunch. So that's the map of where we're going. I'm going to stop sharing there. And if there's questions popping in, we'll take them. And if there's not, we'll just jump into radical responsibility, a little deeper dive on that one. And let's see, I'll just check the chat.
Brendan, someone texted me a question there. I'll just chat. Are there any daily habits or practices you recommend for staying in conscious leadership?
Yes.
Good.
I would say the single best thing you can do at the beginning is take those 3 columns that I said. That's called doing a line check. do a line check. And then on your phones, you get a reminder app, randomly remind me, or one of these reminder apps, Mind Jogger, and set the app for 4 or 5 times a day, however many times you genuinely are willing to do your own line check. Where am I? Like the other day, I think I did 5 or 6 line checks. I was below the line around 4 or 5 different issues, and I've been doing conscious leadership for a long time. So we're just being human. Once you do your line check and you see and you start to use this map, and I just put 6 commitments up there. There are 15, and it comes from the conscious leadership group. We'll also, Pat, do we do show notes or do we do a follow-up email?
We can do a follow-up email.
Yeah, so I'll put some of those resources in there for you. I'll work with Pat to get that instructions up, but do a line check. So that's the very first practice. Now just do that for 2 weeks every day. Don't worry about, am I willing to shift? Because if we move too quickly in shifting, we end up actually just doing what we call a bypass. Yeah, I need to shift. Of course I need to shift. I've got lots of responsibilities, but we genuinely don't shift. So just pick up the gold that's below the line. How, like self-awareness. Like, for example, overwhelm and avoiding conflict are here. So let's look at, I don't know, overwhelm, right? You can start to track, how am I creating overwhelm? Now, from below the line, we will go like this, okay? Well, the boss is asking me for this, the client is asking me for this. My God, we've got so much new business in, I can't handle it all, or whatever is causing, whatever content is causing the overwhelm. And we say, the cause is out there. Now, in conscious leadership, what we do is we locate the cause in here. That's the big move. Of course, not everything is here, but the human tendency is to say the cause is out there. The shift move is to say, can I just take radical responsibility for how I'm creating overwhelm in my life? And we're like, well, what do you mean? How I'm not creating the overwhelm, they are. And you start to dig a little bit deeper. Does anybody who had overwhelm want to put in chat how you're creating overwhelm? If you were to take radical responsibility? I'll just put out there my favorite one that I get a lot. And the favorite one I get is, I say yes when I mean no. Boom, there you go. Okay, so who's the cause of my overwhelm? If I stay in my swim lane, take radical responsibility, teach, like one of the tools we use in conscious leadership is like, teach me how, if I wanted to create overwhelm, just like you're creating overwhelm, I don't express my feelings. There you go. How would I do that? Oh, well, I wouldn't express my feelings. I wouldn't say no. I'd play nice. Oh, yeah, I avoid conflict. Because saying no actually would mean getting into conflict, having a boundary. I repress my anger. Ooh, that's a great way. So you can start to teach the class. And that's one of the key tools. We call it teach the class. And it's like, you know, if you're a professor in a local community college or university, and you're a world expert in overwhelm, how would you, and I'm a student in your class, teach me. Step 1, avoid confrontation at all costs. Step 2, repress my feelings. Step 3, say yes to everything, even when I have a hell no to doing it. Step 4, complain, you know, and you can go on. And so you teach the class. You can teach your own class on any of the issues that you have put up here in chat. Now, once you teach the class, and you do this in a fun way, you're not blaming yourself. You just say you're just doing it for self-awareness. There's the unlock. Oh my God, if I wanted to shift to above the line, I actually feel my feelings. I'm honest in my yeses and my nos. I'm lean in to conflict. Yeah, there's context shifting. There's the key to unlocking that? Great question. Beautiful. Any other questions coming in?
I got another anonymous texture, Brendan. I don't know why they're not
Yeah.
using the chat box, but we're not racist.
Yeah.
We take from all corners.
Go for it.
Can you share a real-world example of a leader or organization that transformed by applying these principles?
Yeah. I mean, countless. Let me go for a team one. I think it's a little bit juicier. So there was a tech firm, and let me close the chat there. A tech firm. They were bought out by a private equity firm. Okay, so they had a new owner. I was brought in because they were just so deeply below the line. They were not aligned on strategy. They were blaming each other. They were shit scared of the new private equity firm, right? And their biggest complaint was, oh my God, all these people want us to make money. And that's how they were blaming them. They were blaming themselves because they were like, oh, yeah, we sold the company and we didn't do anything illegal, but we made everything look pretty rosy. Like as you do when you're selling things, you buff them up and make them look nice. So the cash flows were looking lovely and everything. And now they were shit scared because the new owner could see everything. And they were really running scared. They were also running scared that AI was going to take over their business. Of course, they didn't have a hope of beating that one in a state of contraction. So I come in and I do the interviews first and say, hey, find out what the issues are. And then we get the whole team together and we say, okay, how are you below the line? We did what we just did right there. The next step we do, and this is we do the drama triangle. When we're below the line, we get in the blame game. And there's three roles. This is a real fantastic awareness tool. You've all watched Disney movies, right? Every movie has a hero, right? Every movie has a villain. And every movie has some kind of a victim. Can't say damsel in distress. I think that's sexist these days, but somebody who's in victim mode, right? So we got them to do this drama for like several of their issues. Like they were blaming middle management, they were blaming AI, they were blaming the new company. So let's just take the one about the new owners. And and they were feeling absolutely guilty about having sold the company. So all of that was going on. So we did the drama triangle, and you know what this does is like, it's very embodied. They're all on the floor, and we put the cards down. They just really like it's very therapeutic. You can do this. You get to rant and rave for 2 minutes about your issue. It just brings all the feelings online. It brings the inside voice out. It's like, whoa, wow, there's a lot going on here, which we never would have discovered if everybody stayed in their suit, their professional. Well, the new owners are this and that, and but then we got them on the drama triangle and everything pops. Now we've got juice flowing. Second question. So I'm going to bring you briefly to the 4 questions of conscious leaders. First question, where am I? Below the line, in drama. Beautiful, great. Second question. Can I accept myself for being exactly where I am? And you do that with a loving heart, because what we normally want to do is like, oh no, we got to fix this. Yeah, we got to get on well with the investors, or we got to do this. We got to get on well with each other. We got to focus on strategy. We got to be aligned. That's all a hero move. It's not actually real transformation. When you then accept yourself for being below the line, you're actually saying, I'm under threat. I'm under siege. Can I accept myself for being in a threatened state? I'd say 2/3 of the people can do that okay. 1/3 of the people I coach just have a really hard time. Like I had a guy the other day, he was like, no, I can't. I actually literally cannot feel my fear. He's a high controlling executive. And we got there where he actually felt a feeling and acceptance and love for himself. And he was like, you could see him melt, like almost like the wrinkles just dropped from his face. His shoulders dropped. And he went, oh my God, I haven't felt this way since I was 5. I've been running a racket. I've been running a control racket all my life, trying to be good, trying to be the best, trying to be in control. And like, whoosh, suddenly this man was a feeling human being with compassion for himself. Now, once you can get there, it's the beginning of the opening. So back to the team. So we did the work of acceptance. So can I accept myself? Yes, they were getting there, most of them. Am I willing to shift? And we literally went through these commitments. Are you willing to stop blaming yourself for selling the company? Are you willing to stop blaming middle management for not being accountable? Are you willing to stop blaming the new investors for being so money focused? Right? Second commitment. And I won't go through all of them, but this is the process. Second commitment was, yeah, well, whatever beliefs they were having, holding on to, we should have been cleaner in the financials, right? Okay, what's the opposite of your story? Can we do that? So we played with the opposite. No, we shouldn't. We're selling a company, for God's sake. Of course, we're going to put the sunny side forward. So we're loosening up all of these beliefs, like, oh yeah, the new investments, the private equity firm, all they want is just bottom line. They're just going to run us to the ground and reap out the profit and then spit us out. Like, is that true? Is that really? If you continue to believe that, you're not going to have a proper relationship with these guys. You're going to be running on fear for the next 5 years until they spit you out and run you to the ground. So if you really want that to happen, keep believing that. So again, we explored the opposite of the story, and so on, and feel the feelings until we get to the really juicy one, which is candor. Are you willing to come clean with your investors? Candor is holy shit, no. A lot of people are, we're not telling them that, right? So we have to break down this, like, because they think like if we really tell the truth, they're going to hate us. And this is one of the big things about, they're not going to trust us if we really tell the truth. We have to break down that belief system. Wow, if you tell them the truth and they can rely on you to tell them the truth going forward, will you be a trusted partner? Yeah. So how can telling the truth actually increase connection rather than decrease connection? Increase trust rather than candor is one of the biggest way to, it's high speed ticket to trust. High speed ticket. Because then I say, I know I can trust you to tell me the truth. No matter how hard it is, you're trustable. Thank you. So they got to that stage. Took a bit of work, probably took 3 or 4 months with several coaching sessions. And they now have a brilliant relationship with their private equity owner. They've done 2 acquisitions since then, and they're now really grasping the AI piece. And they all get along really well. And they're not blaming middle management, and the company's growing. So that's just one example of how shifting context can have a radical impact on your content of running a business. Yeah.
Brendan, are there some leaders out there that are naturally in the space, that they're conscious leaders, or how would they recognize, for example, that they're above the line, that they're in play, for example?
Yeah, some people are just they have a maturity, they have an awareness, they have a consciousness, and here's what happens, Pat. Whether it's natural or whether you do this over time and start to get used to it, your center of gravity will shift. And it's not that you're never going to go below the line. Like, we're human beings. This is what happens. Something happens. We expect it to be another way. And we go, oh, how did that happen? We go below the line. The issue is not to be not below the line. The issue is to catch yourself and then to shift. Now, what happens over time, is like this company I was talking about, they were below the line for 6 months before they called me in, right? But as you become a more conscious leader, you shorten the cycle time and you can shift within seconds, hours, days, whatever. Like highly conscious leaders will actually, I'm working with teams that are really grasping this. They will say things in the meeting. Hey, gang, I notice a contraction that nobody is speaking up. And I make up a story that there's a withhold in the room. What are we not saying? So they've noticed the contraction, they've gone below the line, and they've made an immediate decision to shift and reveal what's going on for them. And then invite people in to a space. And they're holding a space where they're conscious listeners. So they're creating the conditions for candor or all around them. So that's kind of how it would work. Yeah.
So that's that piece about radical responsibility that you speak to.
Yeah.
Personal radical responsibility.
Yeah. Like I have a contraction. I make up a story that something is not being said. Okay. I want to check that out with you. From below the line, I'll just go to the next meeting and I'll go, God, I just had this horrible meeting and nobody said anything. Grr, So you catch yourself and you start to own your own stuff in the moment. But it takes a lot of practice to get to that in the moment. Even the most seasoned executives will go home after work and complain about stuff to their spouses and partners, and they're not, and because they don't have the self-awareness to do it in the moment. And this is the definition. One definition of conscious leadership is to be here now, present, and to take radical responsibility for the results I am creating. All right. So you guys, guide me where you want me to go. There's like, let's see, I'm gonna put them up again. There's a bunch of commitments. We can go to any of these. Take a look. You want to pull, if anybody wants to pull one off, put it in chat, we can explore.
Brian has a question there. What would you say to Gerald Ratner, who told the truth about his jewelry business over 30 years ago and sunk his business? That's bad luck.
Well, I don't know if he told the truth from above the line or below the line. I know it's a kind of a jokey question, and forgive me, I don't even know who he is because I've been out of the country for 35 years. But in this situation, is this a serious question? Do you want me to take it? Or is this a joke? It's a serious question. Okay. Right. If he was here right now, and it was real time, and he was wondering, should I say or should I not say? We would do a line check. Are you above or below the line? And just pressure test him on all of these things. Are you really feeling your feelings? Have you looked at both sides of the argument, multiple perspectives? Is there anybody? And then when, if I was sensing the guy was not shifting, I'd say, listen, you can take an action here, whether that's to tell the truth or not tell the truth, who cares? But you're going to be doing it from below the line. And you're going to get more drama in your life. If you truly are above the line, and we've pressure tested all of this, well, then you take an action from above the line, and you take it from a sense of agency and freedom. And you're claiming your power. Now, I don't know the story of whether the guy was above or below. That's the way I would coach somebody. And you can actually, and taking your power, it doesn't mean that I have to tell the truth just because I'm above the line. You can actually make a decision from above the line to actually keep some things private.
I suppose, Brendan, it's a bit like that old adage that the truth or news, or particularly bad news, unlike wine, doesn't improve with age. You're probably better to get it out as early as possible. And I see Grania has asked a question in terms of gossip, for example, and Simon mentioned the 4 questions, but maybe we'll just take them in sequence.
So what's the question on gossip? Hang on, let me jump in here.
I didn't quite understand what you meant by that in that diagram. If you could go back to it again.
Oh yeah, gossip. Let me just.
I presume it means not having gossip, but I'm.
Yes. Yeah. So let me just talk about what gossip is. but well, I think most of us have a general sense what gossip is. It's from, and there's two commitments, below and above the line. So from below the line, if we're committed to gossip, we are committed to talking about somebody in a way that we wouldn't talk about them if they were in the room. So now it could be like vicious gossip. We're like saying, that guy is a complete asshole, right? That's like vicious gossip, right? Or it could be like, yeah, I just don't think you did a good job on that project, you know? But if he was in the room, I wouldn't, you know, I might say, yeah, you did fine. Yeah, you did okay. So there's a way in which we use gossip. And essentially what we do is we one up, one down people. That's what we do. And when we're doing power plays in organizations, we talk about the other side because we want to be right. We're enrolling people in our beliefs. And if we want to be right, we have to make somebody wrong. And that's one way to do it. The other thing this is so toxic. If you were going out to lunch with somebody every day, you probably wouldn't be gossiping about them because you'd have a good connection. Okay. So here's what happens. When we don't practice the hygiene of good candor, commitment 4, we have a withhold. A withhold is like those beach balls, you know, those ones you pump up, those light ones. And you're trying to hold them under the water. It's costing you a lot of energy to have a withhold. So I walk down the hallway, I see someone that I've had a withhold. I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm not going to go into their office because I have like these beach balls. It's hard. I'm certainly not going over to their house on Saturday night for a barbecue because I've got these withholds, been complaining about something about them. So it's costing me energy. So what I do is I start to avoid them slightly at the beginning, then more, and then 6 months later, I'm in full-on rant mode about these people, and that's where it gets very toxic. So it starts with the withhold, then the withdrawal, and then the blame and the criticism, and that's how organizations break down, literally through withholds, which creates disconnection, which creates blame, which impacts strategy and engagement. Does that? Oh, let me do the above the line, Grania. So above the line is gossip is a way to avoid conflict. You see, I had all these withholds like beach balls I'm holding. One way to release tension is I move away. Relief. The other way is I talk about the person. Relief. You think so too? Oh my God, yeah, I'm not crazy, right? So I get relief from gossiping. From above the line, we clear, and what we're clearing is the disconnect between you and me. And I clear with you directly. And it'd be something like this. I'd like to have, you know, people who are practicing this, I'd like to have a clearing session with you, like a sit down. Are you available? And you make the appointment, and then you clear. And you say, here's some facts. Here's a story I make up about you. Here's some frustrations and feelings I have. Here's what I really want, which is a missing ingredient. We never tell people what we really want. We tell them what we don't want. Here's what I really want. And then I own it. I said, I've been creating a disconnect with you for the past 6 months, and it's not what I wanted. Can we get in alignment? That's how you clear. And it's a specific process. Oftentimes has to be facilitated. It's kind of a conflict resolution clearing method. But if you're in a toxic environment or you're working with clients where that's lots of politics going on, that's a sign that there might be need for some clearing.
The old Jojo, not war philosophy. The 4 questions, Brendan, I think I seem to recall where am I was one of them, but perhaps you could just quickly take us through them. Conscious of time, folks, and we will have you out on time.
Yeah, and it's on the deck, so I'm not going to put the deck up. I just wanted to keep a kind of connection with you here. So where am I? Above or below the line? That's question 1. Question 2, can I accept myself for being exactly where I am in a state of threat? And usually there's one of 3 things happening. The threat to my approval, security, or control. So we had in some chats, we can see that's where control is an issue. Fear of conflict is usually an approval issue, right? Security is like, I'm so below the line, like I'm even, my job is affected, right? So security, approval, control. I'm in a state of threat, not in a state of trust. I'm in to-me leadership. I'm at the effect of this. Get some love. Get some, literally, get literally loving yourself, actually. Loving the part of you that's under threat. It's usually that, you know, when I do this work with folks, it's usually, there's a very young part, yeah, usually a childhood part. That's doing the deeper work we get into. Third question, am I willing to shift? And we're going for genuine answers here. Am I willing to do a clearing, for example? Or am I willing to speak my truth? Half the time people are like, oh, no, I'm totally not willing. Jesus, you must be kidding me. Say that? Like they're just not willing. So we might pick off some of the easier ones. You're willing to get in clear agreement, or you're willing to own your stuff. So, but until they're willing to do all of these 6, they're probably still going to be in some kind of at the effect of, or to-me leadership, or victim consciousness, sometimes it's called. That's okay. There's more work to be done from below the line. And if they're willing to shift, if you get a sense, yeah, no, I'm actually willing to commit to all of these things from above the line, which is take radical responsibility, see the opposite of my story, feel my feelings, speak my truth, clear any disagreements, and get in alignment. If you're willing to do all those things, then the fourth question is, okay, what's your next step? What are you going to do to resolve this issue once and for all? Because that's what happens from above the line. You resolve the issue once and for all. From below the line, you recycle.
Okay. Brendan, another texter. I would remind you the chat box is open. You don't have to text. Beyond the workplace, that's a good question, actually. How does this process work in personal relationships or family life, or beyond, outside of the work? I mean, it seems from what that person has asked, but it logically would seem that this openness, this philosophy should be more applicable than just kind of within the corporate world. That, you know, how does it cascade into the family, or, you know, personal life rather, or, you know, friends and so forth?
Great question. It's 100% transferable, right? Because it's just different content. The context stays the same. So, but there's some, I mean, maybe, no, it applies to both. Here's what I would say, go slowly, okay? Go slowly. I often work with people who are like, oh, now I've discovered this thing, consciousness, conscious leadership, and radical responsibility. I'm just going to go blow the world away with radical responsibility. Or like tell my family, you know, some home truths.
Yeah, high risk strategy, Brendan, particularly around Christmas. But anyways.
Well, when I hear that, my radar goes up. You're actually weaponizing the whole system. You think you're above the line, but you're not. You're the advocate now. You're being like the advocate of conscious living and conscious relationships, thinking you're above the line, but you're really below the line, because you're like, oh yeah, I should tell the truth. Yeah, and I'm convinced I should tell the truth. I'm so attached to telling the truth, I'm just going to tell the truth. You know, so people are oftentimes below the line. The best way to do this, 2 minutes, okay, is start practicing, you as a leader. When you do this, people will say, oh, something's happening over there. And you'll start to attract more of this into your life. And slowly people will see, you know, I'm getting into clear agreement, I'm getting into alignment, I'm saying the hard things. They will start to entrain into that. So go first, okay? All right, next. Is that it, Pat?
Yeah, no, thank you, Brendan. I mean, there's a few more coming in, and you're very kind to offer to send out the notes afterwards and some tips and tricks. And I suppose the takeaway, just from my own perspective, just to reiterate those 4 key questions, just to kind of, I suppose, lay an egg on it, is, you know, constantly be aware of self and ask, where am I along the journey, the Camino, in terms of the line? Am I above or below the line? And can you accept yourself for where you are at that particular moment and have an aspiration to move in a positive manner? And I suppose that old Cunard, are you willing to shift? Do you have it within you to actually change the dial, move the dial? change gears. And I suppose, again, perspective is everything. To that point you made earlier, which struck me, whoever said it, in terms of you can't change the problems that were created by using the same mindset that actually was in play when the problems were created. You can't solve problems using the same applications that have been tried already and have failed. You need to move the paradigm and be open to change. And we are in a rapidly transitioning environment. It's particularly pacey at the moment with various different things going on in the geopolitical space, on an AI space. And I suspect the ability to kind of maintain relationships and have those positive leadership attributes are going to be really valuable as a competitive edge moving forward. The truth, as they say, will set you free. And on that basis, folks, I'm going to set you free. Thank you for your time. It's been a very interesting one. Brendan, you've given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure we'll have some further questions coming in. But on behalf of everyone here, it's been a great lunch and learn. Gur míle maith agat. And folks, we'll send you out the details subsequently, and keep an eye out for the next module, which is coming up in March. Slán go fóill. Have a great afternoon. I hope you get a time for a quick cup of coffee. But thank you for your attention, and look forward to seeing you all again. All the best.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.